The sort of election hangover day on a Wednesday, as is usually the case. I wasn't going to stay up last night because as things started developing, there weren't too, to me, there wasn't too much suspense. And I'm not trying to be one of those, told you so. But most of those races came out about like we expected. There weren't really too many shocks last night, unless you're involved in one of the campaigns and you had high hopes, which is always the case. You get caught up in it. I've been on the losing side when I supported somebody in the past, and but things came out about like we expected, and so now we're in overtime, and we're going to have a. I think it's going to be a pretty intense set of runoffs. The largest races that were competitive on the ballot of the largest statewide offices are all in runoffs. So we're going to have a lot of. There'll be a lot of volume. There'll be a lot of stuff in your mail. You're going to keep getting spammed, and we're in a very compressed time frame of just about 4 weeks before June 16th. And I was always thinking in the back of my mind, it's always 6 weeks before we get to a runoff, but it's only 4 weeks. So here we go with that. AJ, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm too blessed to be the president.
Any surprises for you in all the shenanigans last night?
Not really much of a surprise. I guess, I mean, if you think about like a hyper local race, there was one. The state representative Gavan, she
the
lost her
mayor
race.
took her out.
Yeah,
What's going on with that?
That was started off because when she ran for mayor for Birmingham,
She challenged him.
and there was some things that were being said, and
Mhm.
yeah, he was like, "All right, well, I'm going to back your opponent," and he did.
He pulled
and,
the Trump, didn't he?
yeah.
What? You know, her routine though is, and I think my wife knows her somehow. She's was connected politically in the
She's
past.
been up here a couple of times.
Yeah, and she's come up here for interviews. I just don't personally know her. I do think she's funny, but she goes over the top, and she does it to everybody.
Yeah.
And you don't. There's an old saying in politics: you don't piss inside the tent, you piss outside the tent.
Right.
And she peed in her own tent, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw her dumping on the Republicans last week, saying a bunch of irresponsible stuff, but you almost expect that.
Yeah.
But that whole, I'm telling you, that people of all party types, I'm reading into it, AJ. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But people of all party types, races, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, we're kind of exhausted with the stunts, candidates that are just doing stunts all the time. And she did well. I mean, she managed to draw a lot of attention to herself by trying to be she got them big Buick Skylark glasses, yelling at people. And that's kind of played, man.
Yeah, it is, and I think she's been in the state house.
She's been there a while,
12 years or something like that. She's been there for a minute.
Been there like 2-3 terms or something.
Yeah,
so she gone.
Yeah,
so that was on the Democrat side. That was, I suppose, a surprise. There wasn't a whole lot of votes in a little small race in that size, but that's all it takes. If a mayor's got some sway, Mayor Smoot got some sway over there and took her clean out. And the young lady that beat her seems like a very calm, rational person. I don't know much about her.
I actually met her. I was gonna try to get her on when there was like an event that was going on out there, and I went for the Hot 107.7 to just kind of represent, and it was in Fultondale, and so because that's kind of like her general area.
Yep.
And so came out there and was out there seeing the band, the Olin school. I forgot the name of the school.
Olin Jackson.
Olin Jackson, yeah. Their marching band was out there, and then I was taking pictures and hanging out with them, and then she was out there. Actually, all three of the candidates that was running in that particular race was actually out there. So
for that event, did you get a sense of that from being around it?
Yeah, I kind of had gotten a sense of it. Because you just got off from the mayor's race as well too.
Yeah,
so
that just happened.
Those band-aids were still there. It wasn't even like settled yet.
People still got a tourniquet on, going, let's fight some more. All right, so that was a little bit of a twist here in Alabama. Of course, let me deal with some of the national stuff. Then we'll come down. I'll break down a little bit of. I don't want to wear y'all out with it. By the time I get on it too, post-election, there's been so much conversation, but there hadn't been our conversation. And so I will tell you that I'm not trying to overstate the influence of this station and this audience, but the election outcomes always vary with the rest of the state around Birmingham's numbers. And I think it's because we've got the largest audience in News Talk Radio, and people are dialed in and tuned in. And I think it informs people a little differently than people get in some of the other markets. And so some of the handicapping, even some of the county results came in last night. A very different race for, say, Jared Hudson around Birmingham. Of course, he's from here, than, say, in the home districts of the other guys. And you would kind of expect some of that. So that's where everything starts. Now I'll get to the Senate race because that's one of the bigger, more high-profile races. But first up, this Thomas Massey thing, been very funny to see all the reaction to that. What's funny to me is when people get a thorough ass kicking, like Massey got and Cassidy got last weekend, they go sour. They go. It's very small of them. Like Cassidy immediately came out and said, "Well, okay, fine. I'm not voting for his ballroom." And and then Massey last night blaming the Jews. Everybody wants to blame the Jews for everything. It's so weak-minded. I mean, it's not analytical. It's not historically correct. It's like modern, factually correct. But everybody needs a villain when they get a spanking. The best thing to do is just take your lumps, dude. Like I would dare say Steve Marshall did today. He just put out a concession statement, I think just a little while ago. Last night it was close enough for him to want to hold off, make sure the votes, came in correctly and there weren't any shenanigans. And by the way, I don't recall, we did have a caller to call about a voting machine foul up that he had, but there weren't really any shenanigans yesterday. There wasn't any reports of malfeasance enough to hang things up, even though that Senate race got close. Toward the end, it was, late in the evening, we were waiting to see who was going to make the runoff. So, well, let me just dive into that race first. So now, of course, Barry Moore and Jared Hudson are going to be in this very odd race. And let me try to describe why it's odd. Because Barry Moore is the establishment candidate, but he's also the Trump candidate. So in that case, you've sort of got Washington types and Trump endorsing him on his side, and that's pretty formidable. I think he stayed south of 40%. My rule of thumb in those kind of crowded races are that you generally want to, if you can get north of 40%, you can close the deal, especially if you get an endorsement of one of the other guy that got bumped out. In this case, it would be Steve Marshall, the third largest vote getter. Steve Marshall gave a very gracious concession. Now, the question is, what will he do? I don't think those endorsements will sway those voters, but now you've got a big group of voters that are persuadable when you get into a runoff position. So it's off to the races. So the next few days, what you're going to see is a full court press on Steve Marshall to endorse one of the two candidates or not. He could remain out of it. Then you're going to see a series of other endorsements that some people will hold off to see how it shakes out and then come piling in. So you're going to see some of that. I think Barry Moore's got the edge, being the leader last night, having the Trump endorsement, and some of the establishment type folks. They know him from his time in Washington. Now, that can work against you, too. If you're enough of an irritant in Washington, some of that money could come down here and support Moore's opponent. And by the way, just as a point of, I guess, disclosure, I wasn't around for all this, but I hear the stories sometimes. Barry Moore knows that the second vote getter can wind up winning. You know how he knows that, AJ?
How's that?
Because he did that to get into Congress. He barely beat, and when he ran for Congress, he barely beat my wife. She was in that race back in those days, and we'd talk about it sometimes. She came within 500. They came within 500 points of each other. But he went on. He squeaked by. He got into the runoff, and he proved that the second place vote getter can go on and win races, because things can happen over 4 weeks. So it's not a foregone conclusion for the Moore folks, and we need to have him in at a longer period of time. When he was on the show with us the other day, I pressed him to come in and sit down with whoever his eventual opponent would be, and he didn't. He sort of hemmed and hawed and said he would do it because you challenge their egos, AJ, and they want to, everybody wants to act like they're down for it, but then they'll give his caveat was, well, as long as my schedule will allow, I got votes and stuff. I'm like, no, dude, you're going to be, schedule's yours. There are probably, how many shows do you think we'll do? Let's see, 5. We'll do 20 shows between now and then. Pick one. I'll start with him because I think I can convince Hudson to come in and sit down together. So I'm going to start pushing on those guys to see if they'll come in here. And I don't want to have a fight. I don't want to. we've done that kind of radio in the past. I'd love to hear the two of them in the same room, literally just discussing stuff that's more beneficial to the audience. I think it would be helpful, and perhaps we can do that. Because truthfully, if I got to just talk about that race a little longer, um, truthfully, they're going to vote the exact same way. I doubt there would ever be many votes in the future that would be different between the two. So then it comes down to personalities and resumes and who people trust to go up there and not get sold out. And people have got to make those decisions on personal levels. And so it'll be an appeal. Now, that race will turn nasty. It was starting to toward the end, and the Hudson folks were correct to respond that one of the reasons suddenly they were getting picked on is because they were moving up in the polls. And as of last night, Jared Hudson, and let me just speak to him for a minute because the audience knows I voted for Jared. He's my friend. But he came out of nowhere. He'd only run for office once for sheriff in Jefferson County. And then, boom, statewide, this guy showed he's got critical mass. He was able to fundraise. He took out the sitting attorney general to come in second in the race. That's a huge win for his team. And I know early in the evening they were probably sweating it because Hudson was behind for a lot of the evening. But I went and looked at the county by county votes that night, and I didn't have access to all of them. I probably should have reached out to see what they were seeing, but I was kind of sleepy. And AJ, the dog's got in a fight with a possum in the yard. I'm trying to watch election returns. Is that the countryest thing you've heard all day?
Yeah.
The dogs having a throwdown. I go outside and they're fighting with a possum.
The only thing I was missing out is you coming out there and your wife beater with a cigarette dangling in your mouth.
Y'all get on the damn porch.
Hey, dog.
Y'all get back in the house. Woman's trying to sleep. There. I did do that, actually. But I didn't have a wife beater. It was just man boobs. I just went out there with no shirt.
That's even worse, man. That's even worse.
No, if I got to tell that story correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So Jessica runs out on the porch to find out because it's all hell's breaking loose out there. And
did she go, not my baby. Let my baby.
We didn't know what it was. A snake. I figured it was something that couldn't get away. And they had this thing cornered.
Yeah.
And it was about to whoop. Look, they're tiny little fluffy dogs. It was about to whoop their ass, both of them. So we were trying to get the dogs in. I was trying to get the poor possum on its way. And she comes running back. She goes out there ahead of me. And before I can get out the door, she comes back in. And if I had to describe it, this is the noise she made. I was like, what the hell? What the hell? And she had seen the possum. She seen it. She came in the house, and I went out there. We got the dogs wrangled. Then I got back to my vote counting. So, so I'm looking last night, and Marshall's vote was in for Marshall County. That was his base. Most of Barry Moore's vote had come in from South Alabama, and a lot of outstanding vote was still around Birmingham. Jefferson and Shelby still had a lot of vote to go, and I knew that was going to be Jared Hudson territory. And sure enough, he won convincingly outright in some of the counties around here. So where do the candidates have to go? Barry Moore's got to get into this market. He's going to have to come on this show. He's going to have to go to Huntsville. They know him in South Alabama. He's done a really good job. But he is going to have to convince people. And the same thing would apply to Jared Hudson. He's got to get more well-known in some of the counties where they didn't do well. So it'll be the typical script. It'll be endorsement, which will have some effect. Because really the effect is momentum. It'll be breakneck fundraising because – if you're doing it right, you're going to spend all your money through Election Day. Both of these campaigns should have been broke last night because they don't give you the money to save. It's not a savings account. You're trying to win. You've got to put it to use prior to Election Day. And so their coffers are probably mostly all empty. Now, this was pretty foregone conclusion that it was going to be a runoff, so maybe they had a little they kept a little corn in the silo to get ready to go into this phase. But for the most part, they're going to be breakneck fundraising. And so there'll be a lot of money dumped in here because this is a Senate race. This is a very important vote and a very tight Senate where every vote counts. So I think it's going to be high profile. And again, congratulations to both those guys. I think they're two quality candidates. I do. I think they're both good guys and good candidates. It's going to be fascinating to me how it gets sorted out. I hate to see it turn ugly, but it's about to.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely going to be about to turn ugly. And now, you asked me about another interesting race. That was another one that was interesting. You know, especially just knowing Jared Hudson and just his background in the military and then what he's been doing with Covenant Rescue Group. I was amazed that he did it. You know, with him building his name the way that he's had to do to get his name out there and
Yeah.
come in in a very highly contested race where you had to weave and bob and weave with other people that had some name recognition that done some stuff in other offices, but he did a good job and congratulations.
And it's taking a lot of discipline for me right now not to spike the football on some consultants and know-it-alls that we're pretty sure he was a no go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because they didn't know him, so he's a nobody to them.
Right.
And these are some well-known radio and TV types and people that write for a living. They just don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're not as connected to regular everyday folks. Plus, I mean, I like to think, if I got to brag for a minute, I have a little bit of a talent for, there's an X factor that some candidates have that is natural. It's part of their being and their presence. Bob Riley had it. I can name others that have an advantage over stiff candidates that are plastic and scripted and poll tested. And in today's raw environment of nonstop news, you better be able to connect. If I had to say anything negative about Steve Marshall, I think he's a class act, but he just didn't connect. He's a stiff. He's a lawyer stiff from that Montgomery scene that's still fighting campaigns like it's 1995. And the guerrilla campaigns they won all over the country. This Spencer Pratt out in L.A., even Hudson, to the degree that he's never been involved. And I can go through a whole list. This outsider that took out Massey, other wins around the country. There's a different way to campaign now. And the old classic playbook guys that don't know any better are still doing the old playbook. And that playbook's been dead probably for at least the last 5 or 6 election cycles. And Hudson didn't get caught up in that because he didn't know any better. And that was good. That was good for him. And so good for him. All right, I still got to talk about the LG race. I mean, the AG race, the LT race. And anything else if y'all want to do any further review, we'll have some additional headlines today of other things. But it's kind of fun to spend a little bit of time at the beginning just thinking it through and looking forward. Now, the one that's going to get thrown down ugly, because it already was, is this attorney general race, and that is about to get off the chain. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Y'all, stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute. Leland Live. Whoa, hey now. Do we just have to dump one of our own bumper songs?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like the groove though, AJ. I like the attempt at that. We just didn't know it had foul language in it. That happens.
Oh, hey,
You know, in
hey.
the old days, you couldn't even find a song with a dirty word in it because the record companies. I mean, your uncle might have had a vinyl, or
Hmm.
maybe it was on, but they wasn't just on the internet because radio couldn't play it, so
Right.
the record companies didn't want to put it out. And now it's just they used to even warn you explicit.
Right.
Now they don't tell you
And,
anymore.
and sometimes on my playlist, it has explicit or E next to it, the song. It just lets you know that there's
Yeah,
gonna be
that's what I
cuss
mean. The
word.
E for explicit.
Yeah, but this one didn't have it, so I was like, "Oh yeah, this is good." And then
Mm. Sounded a little bit
right in the
like,
beginning,
yeah, it was a little Judas Priesty there for a second,
yeah.
and I was like, "Where are we going with this?" And then, boom. Right. All right. Look, before I don't know if I'm gonna do any more breakdown. Let me throw this in, and then we'll do more breakdown because I got a short segment. And I rambled too much in the beginning, but I got to shove this story in here, just like the Pizza Hut story yesterday about them trying to revitalize the old style of the Pizza Hut. A beloved brand that is also part of that same era has now been. It's gone kaput. It's no longer with us. Schlitz malt liquor. It's gone. The
Mm,
Pabst people have decided to kill the
not the
Schlitz
bull.
brand. No, that's Colt 45.
No, that Schlitz was a blue bull.
Schlitz. Maybe you're right. Maybe.
Yeah, Schlitz malt liquor.
Dun, 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 dun. You got the bull. There was a song like that about the
Mm-hmm.
bull. Pull up one of their old commercials. Now, I don't know if I ever had any Schlitz malt liquor, but it's gone. They just killed off the Schlitz. And then I got to thinking about brand names that aren't with us anymore that we was just part of life growing up. Some of that's happening in real time right now with these company mergers, the AI approach. Things are you just can't get too loyal to these brands. They're gone. Like Pontiac,
Mm-hmm.
gone. Schlitz, gone. If you're from the '70s, your world is upside down right now.
Well, I think I would like to say, at least on Breaking Bread, we talked about Pizza Hut bringing back the old school Pizza Hut where you can dine in and have like, and I think they probably listened to us,
Mm.
and now they're talking about we need to bring that retrofit Pizza Hut style restaurant back. So
That could be what it is.
I like to say I would like to say us at Breaking Bread like to take credit for that.
I'll give you all credit. All right, let's do the bottom of the hour break. We'll come back. Let me break down some of the other responses from the races to come as we will be full tilt boogie. I mean, these guys will barely get a chance to take a breath this weekend, or if at all, and then they'll be back with fresh ads and fresh attacks and more nonsense. But it won't be as crowded. You won't have some random office you've never heard of in your mailbox and hitting you on the phone. And we'll be breaking that down, taking your calls too. 545-9950. Lead on live, Talk 995. Y'all hang on. All right, man. Let's do this thing. Leland Live, Talk 995, 235 as we get on through the afternoon. By the way, good chances of some sort of pop up storms this afternoon in some areas. We do need the rain, and we're in a almost summer pattern where we'll have chances of thunderstorms every afternoon starting really today, increased chances tomorrow and the next day. Nothing crazy, but a lot of thunder and lightning. The markets are way up today, back to 50,000 territory all of a sudden. I haven't had a chance to break down why there's some enthusiasm going on, but up the Dow's up 669 at this hour as they head toward the close. I always take a look at the markets when I'm about to talk about Danny Knowles and when I'm about to talk about the gold refinery because I'll check the spot gold price every day. Just keeping up with things. Look, day to day, whether it's up or down, you've got a nice exchange place to go and buy, sell, or trade gold. And it's with Steve and all those guys over at AGR. The cool kids call them AGR. It's Alabama Gold Refinery. It is just a wonderful shop. You can go in there, and they keep a lot of the things people bring in. You'd be surprised at antiques and old coins. They got ancient coins. You coin collectors, they got stuff you can pick through, and they'll buy it from you for its weight value or sell you in the same way and trade with you. Steve's just good like that. And it's nice to have an exchange and just not some shady place that's trying to lowball you for your old jewelry. They don't do that at AGR. They'll give you fair value. They know what it's worth, and they'll show you what it's worth and work it out with you. And then you get to know them, and you've got a nice exchange place. Some of you, as you build your assets, you're paying your mortgage and building your equity and contributing to your 401k. One of those things ought to also be stowing away some precious metals in your hand, like in person, in secret. Nobody's got to know that kind of stuff. You can do that with Alabama Gold Refinery. Go talk to Steve, get to know him and the team. Again, there in Homewood across from the Regions Bank on 29th, Alabama Gold Refinery. All right, more on the election last night. AJ, if you want to chime in on any of this, do this. So let's go to the lieutenant governor race. That was so crowded. There were like 7 candidates. And now we're down to the former Secretary of State and the former party chair, 2 guys that have started to make themselves well known. They almost tied each other. So I don't know where that goes. And here's the thing. People say, well, that get nasty too. It might, but they're not going to have a ton of money. The truth is that's not a powerful office. It used to be the lieutenant governor's office used to be more powerful than the governor until, well, that's a long story. They had command of the Senate and could stop anything, control anything that happened in the state. And that got watered down and taken away when Steve Windham became the lieutenant governor years ago. Long story there. Some of you remember that. But it's an interesting office because it's how Kay Ivey got to be governor for 10 years.
It's just a placeholder seat.
Yes. I mean, she was there. And then when we had the 50 Shades of Gross scandal with Robert Bentley, who couldn't keep his hands to himself, we wound up with Kay Ivey for the whole long haul, and it's just been lethargy since then. So it is consequential in that way. So yeah, that'll be interesting. There won't be as much volume on it because again, there's not as much money in races like that. But the AG race that's a pivotal office in the country, and it has proven to be such as attorneys general all over the country are perpetually having to file lawsuits dealing with issues with the federal government, fighting off some of the things other AGs try to do from other states. It's almost like another branch of the legislature in some ways, where they're having to constantly get involved in policy areas, not just your typical crime fighting and law enforcement. But it's always been an important office. It's always been a lightning rod kind of office all the way back to, I remember the days of Jimmy Evans when the Democrats ran everything and how they used that office to kick a governor out. That was in the days when the two parties were competitive. So, but that race it was already getting that way. The two candidates have, I don't know, it's personal animosity, but it starts to build when you've already attacked each other. And I heard a soundbite today with Catherine Robinson, who I also don't know, and we'll get in here as well. I heard her saying they're going to have to respond. That's the way candidates put it. We're going to have to respond to some of the accusations that have come out. That just means we're going to hit them back with some more doo-doo. It's doo-doo everywhere in the AG race.
I just say, if you're going to have them on here, Leland, we need to do your mama jokes.
We could do that.
Yeah, forget about all that stuff.
I bet Jay would do it. Jay and Catherine come sit down with me, and they can each do your mama jokes back and forth to each other. And see who's got the best.
And then we'll let the audience pick who
would that be
win.
the best campaign thing ever?
Yeah.
Your mama is so fat. I mean, just back and forth. Oh, yeah, well, your mama's got a wooden leg with a kit stand. That kind of stuff.
Right.
Just back and forth.
And I don't know. I haven't met Catherine, but, I do know Jay.
I bet she'd be down. She seems like a spirited person.
All I gotta say is what I hit Jay with the handshake, and he was able to do it so smoothly.
Yeah,
I stopped in my tracks.
If I can tell the story in the background, AJ, we around the office we do a lot of fist bumping and soul brother shaking around here, and AJ came in with a, what would you call that when you put your hand out like you're gonna do the grab? The thumb grab thing,
like the palm grab.
AJ came in with it, and Jay was like slid right in there like he was smooth it, and AJ was shocked.
I literally did it. We did it we did not stop talking like that. I mean, he didn't miss like most white guys. Yeah,
he came right in. He knew exactly what to do. Y'all gave each other that, and then the bro slap, the back slap. What's going on?
Yeah.
And AJ went, wow. And
I walked out of the studio, stopped in my tracks, turned around,
and he came back in here. AJ said, "That was pretty good. That was." I go, wow, white boy. And what did Jay Mitchell say? We're embarrassing the guy right now.
He's like, hey, I play basketball.
He said, I used to play ball. He played basketball at Birmingham Southern. So he's had a few handshakes on the court. He's got practice. That's part of the game, man. You make a nice layup.
There you go.
Slap it out, get on down the court. That was a funny moment yesterday. We didn't really talk about it on the air. But yeah, I'll look forward to having all these folks in here. Now, just as a side note, I'm doing another one of those take the show out west trips this summer. It will be a little bit abbreviated because part of that I'm going to be on vacation. So I'm going to work my way out there and take a little break. And then we're going to do a series of shows for, I think, 3 straight weeks. Hippies, cowboys, Western people, all the way back home, just out there in America. We enjoyed that. The audience has been asking us to do it again, like we did 3 summers ago. So heading back out there to do that again, and I'll be gone. That's the week I'm leaving, is the week of the primary. So AJ, I won't be here for the runoff, but I'll be on the air that week, and I'll have to vote absentee. I haven't done that in years.
Yeah.
You ever voted absentee?
I have not.
I had to do it one time when I was on a campaign, and I couldn't be at my poll that day because I had responsibilities that day, so I had to vote.
Yeah.
Went to the courthouse, sealed it in the envelope. That's the way we ought to do it. Do it in the presence of some security, confirm your identity, put your little paper ballot in there, and you voted.
Now, I have been a witness to somebody having to do an absentee ballot.
You can have a witness and all that. So anyway, so there's that. So yeah, my guess, a lot of money spent on the Senate race, a lot of noise coming out of the AG race. And because there's only 3 of them for the most part, it'll be interesting to see how the LG race goes in terms of its temperature. Now, the stupid thing, because our legislature was just half-assed, and so was the governor in the redistricting scenario where the way they set us up this way, just some terrible legal and/or political advice. We're going to have to vote for Congress again in August, so we've got to go to the polls in June. And then turn right around and go back and do all these congressional races over again in August. So there's all that. Speaking of that, and we've got a caller that is a politically astute, and he called in yesterday and told me again about I'm not saying he's trying to be the representative of the black community. AJ and I try not to represent our own communities too much. We just talk. But he calls in. Is it Darren? Is that what?
Daryl.
Daryl. Yeah. What am I? I'm blanking. I was just blanking out on Daryl. I love Daryl because Daryl's is easy. But he warned us that this thing about trying to get a boycott of the SEC and these SEC schools because of the reapportionment. And I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, I'm telling y'all. And so he had picked up on it from all his conversations in the community. And then, of course, the NAACP and all the organizational groups came out and tried to call for it, Hakeem Jeffries and all that. And then he said yesterday, because I mean, I'm not hanging out with college athletes. I don't know what they're thinking nowadays. But he told us, and he was so on it, Daryl said, he goes, man, these kids are getting all kind of money. They're not going to boycott anybody. And I got to thinking about that. And then I started hearing the reaction today. This will be the deadest, most, they need another tactic. If they're going to resist the districting, this is not going to work. And here's why. What you're telling these kids, here's a kid who's got talent. He's probably worked his butt off since he was in the 5th grade. These kids start playing football so young. I mean, you can have natural ability, but you got to put the work in to get to that level. And it's so competitive. And now we're paying these athletes. And so you got a kid sitting on his couch and the head football coach at, let's just say, Alabama. And I'm not trying to be funny. I forget his name. What's the dude's name over at Alabama, AJ? Why am I forgetting his name? Hell, I can't remember the Auburn guy either. He's new. Auburn keeps firing people every 2 years. What's the
DeBose?
I'm getting old, dude.
DeBoe?
No, he got fired.
You talking about the Alabama coach?
Yeah, what's his name now? Why am I blanking on that? Anyway, I've dropped out of football in my mind. Anyway, y'all know who the coach is. He's sitting on the couch with this guy and his mama. The university's about to offer him $2 million.
Kalen
DeBoer, that's what it is. Yeah, he still feels new to me. I go back to Bear Bryant, so I can't remember stuff.
Sound like that political ad. Pat died.
You fellas, get on in here. We're gonna practice. So you got DeBoer just got up off the couch. The seat's still warm. The university's offering, his dream school. He's got a shot at the NFL going to these high marquee schools in the SEC. They've offered him $2 million. He's about to buy his mama a house. And the NAACP comes knocking on the door, and they're like, you don't need to play football there. And he goes, why? Because we are oppressed. He's like, well, the white dude just offered me $2 million, so I don't feel oppressed right now. You're not going to be able to sell oppression and victimhood to these kids that are about to hit it rich and not hit it rich through some accident because they worked their ass off to get there. Now, we can all fight over how much these kids are making and what they're doing with it and how it's ruining the game. That's all true. But it's a different world right now. And as Daryl and I were talking about yesterday, it's green, man. Activism that's these guys with this 1965 mentality, including Doug Jones, by the way, who last night I flipped over to Fox 6 to see their coverage. I don't watch a whole lot of local news anymore, even though I used to work there. And, dude, it was like the Doug Jones show last night. They went to his speech live, and I think they stayed with him for 30 minutes. And you'd thought he just won the nomination for the presidency, and he is just going to get his head kicked in because it's just the way things are right now in the composition of the state. He'll get 36 to 40% of the vote, and that's it. He'll lose by double digits again unless a meteor or these aliens that the government's about to disclose show up. But he was talking some trash. So that'll be a spirited race, but I don't expect Jones as a serious candidate by any stretch of the imagination. But he was evoking some of this old tired ass rhetoric, and it's just not effective. I'm telling you, if it was effective, I'd be worried about it. I'd be like, well, maybe that'll make a point. It's just so exhausting, and we went through that a little bit earlier in the show as well. 545-9950. If y'all got thoughts on any of these election things, a couple other notes. I didn't keep notes like I usually do on election night when I observe things. But there was an important set of races over in Georgia that we weren't paying attention to, but some of the party types were watching closely. And that's where the Democrats came in and tried to pick off 2 Georgia Supreme Court seats. They lost both. That's big because now you get a sense that, and Raffensperger couldn't control election outcomes like they've done in the past. Georgia was one of the states that absolutely cheated and threw the election to Biden. It's not even debatable at this point if you've been paying attention. And will they ever be held accountable? I doubt it. They're also the state that allowed the indictment of the president on these made-up charges to try to keep him from running. That didn't work. Ossoff is only there because of the cheating that they did in that election as well. This guy's vulnerable as he is up for re-election. So the question was, is Georgia statewide about to start flipping? The Democrats have targeted Texas and Georgia and North Carolina for a long time. Didn't look like it last night. In fact, for the MAGA team, it was a good night. Most of the Trump endorsed candidates did well. If they didn't run outright, they were leading candidates. And this wasn't even a Democrat issue. Remember, this is a Republican primary. So a lot of people got bounced. And even here in Alabama, one other note here at home, a lot of incumbents got tossed. Some longtime incumbents in the House, a couple of PSC members tossed. Folks are tired of the same old, same old. I've said it since this election year started. This is an anti-incumbent season that we're in. It's not even just this year, and it's still that way, at least on the Republican side of things. Having experience in office is a detriment in a lot of ways, especially if you haven't proven to be a fighter. Now, I'm not saying do ads that say you're a fighter, but get in there and get dirty and put up a fight, or even just be loyal when called upon to be a team player. Some of those folks got bounced, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. All right, Distinctive Pools bringing you the show tonight. If y'all are going to build a pool at your house, Draco saw me in the hall. She thought I had a swimming pool, AJ. I don't know why. She invited herself over to my house. She said, I'm going to come over to your house and we're going to hang out at the pool. I said, I ain't got a pool, Draco, but I want one. And when I get one, I did my pitch for Distinctive Pools. I said, we're going to go to Distinctive Pools, distinctivepools.com. Gary Levesque has been building pools for 40 years. My man knows a thing or two about both pools and hardscapes. He has hired an incredibly impressive crew to be around him to get these projects done. So first advice, like a lot of our sponsors on the show, don't do things cheaply, especially a pool. Pools is a luxury if it's done right. If it's not, it can be a huge detriment to your house, because some buyers, if you're ever going to sell the house, they're not even looking at a house with a pool. They don't want one unless the pool's impressive. And I've seen minds changed when they go, wow. And then suddenly everybody wants that house. That's why you build it right. That means the design needs to be right, the way it ties into the home. That can be with adding these sort of hardscape features when you do a project like this. Distinctive knows all this. They're hardscape experts. They can handle those elements, and the pool itself, the latest technology for both maintenance and the beautification packages, all the stuff that goes with it. Build something nice. Do it with the financing that they offer as well, with some partners they have that do that in that industry. It's distinctivepools.com, distinctivepools.com. Hey, Jed, just noticed we got a third camera in here. Where'd that come from? Did you see this thing?
Oh, we do?
Look at that.
Oh.
I don't know if they got it hooked up or not. I guess that's for a
Oh,
guest
it's
over
for
there.
the guests over here that's on.
Oh, look, we getting
Magnum 4.
fancy up in here.
Look at that.
All right, y'all, look out. I'm watching the radar in case we wind up with any thunderstorms this afternoon. We'll try to keep you posted. Mostly that would just be an issue of traffic as we go along this afternoon. Let me get to this Raul Castro story. We have indicted, the United States Department of Justice has indicted old Raul. He used to be the president of Cuba, brother of Fidel, and he is being accused of using the Cuban military shot down some of these rescue flights, these brothers to the rescue guys, years ago, and shot them out of the sky. I think it was a Cessna, one of these private small planes. These guys will fly down and scoop up refugees and get them back here over the years. Incredibly brave folks. If you remember, we just had an incident with a group out of the Keys that tried to do the same thing, it appears, and they wound up in a shootout as they approached Cuba. So Raul gave the order for that to take place, and now we have indicted him. And so suddenly there are shades of Maduro. If you remember the reason, we had a predicate to go in and snatch Maduro in his PJs straight out of his bunker was because he had been indicted on multiple charges over the years, but nobody wants to seek to enforce it. Raul Castro is a villain, and so is Fidel. We should dig Fidel up and indict him too. Bring his bones back here and put him on trial. I have no sympathy for this 94-year-old commie. I don't know what happens from there. The power structure is a little different in that country right now, but there are ongoing negotiations and some people think this is a Maduro-style predicate because there are other people that were indicted along with him that are still in the power structure. I think it's less that and more a part of these negotiations. Let me try to explain. When your Secretary of State has Cuban heritage and understands this issue better than any Secretary of State we've had in a lifetime, there are things that are going to be demands of the American Cuban community if we wind up doing this deal to somehow bail out Cuba or get the regime to give it up and then eventually provide aid and normalize relations in a better way. If it ends peacefully, the Cuban American community here in the United States wants accountability for these atrocities. I don't think they want these animals and these vicious people that have been running that island to just get away with it. It's sort of similar to the negotiations we're in right now with Iran, that you can't cut a nuclear deal with a terrorist regime and leave the terrorist regime. I think a lot of folks want that mission completed, and then you get both. You get the nuclear deal terminated, the nuclear threat completely terminated because the regime's gone. You also immediately open the Strait of Hormuz. It's about the regime. Now, my sense there is this delay, Trump keeps delaying and negotiating and delaying and negotiating. I get a genuine sense that this delay is tactical. We just put it that way. That there are things on the ground happening right now that you're going to understand why we put this off for 4 or 5 weeks, because I hope that setup is building. Washington seems to be pointed in that direction. Who knows when it will pop loose, but some of that on the international stage today as well. When we come back, Ebola. AJ, we've had aliens and Ebola in the same week. Back in a minute.